Welcome to the Wednesday Call Live. Now let's hear it for our special guest host, Marc Accetta.
Well, thank you very much. And it is such an honor for me to be here with you on the weekly call. I don't get an opportunity to do this very often. So Andy asked me to be a part of it. And anytime Andy asked me to talk to the Alliance, it's always a privilege for me. So first of all, I'm looking forward to seeing all of you guys at Family Reunion. I'm sure most of you are signed up for that. But if you're not, oh my goodness, you absolutely need to get there. I have never seen Andy more excited about events since I've been on board. Obviously, there were many, many years at the Alliance before I came, but in the last 2.5 years, Andy loves the events. He loves pouring into you guys. He's always involved, but this time, more than anything I've ever seen. This is like a homecoming and an event. It's just like many things wrapped into one. So anyway, I'll see you there. You got to come. Today, I want to talk to you very specifically about recruiting and building. Many, many years ago, that was something I just learned how to do. And what's wild is, the same tactics, the same techniques, the same management skills, all of those things, ways you get people started, it's exactly the same. Even though I was not in the insurance industry, and I always make that disclaimer. I'm not an insurance salesperson. I've never sold an insurance policy. I've bought them, but I've never sold them before. So at the events, I always make sure that when we have someone who's teaching me how to sell insurance or annuities or anything like that, it's one of the field people that do it for a living. But I have definitely gone out and recruited and built for for decades, literally. So I just want to jump into some basics about this. I was able to do this when I was in Dallas with Andy a few days ago, and everyone really felt good about it. And I think we just want to get back where we have more people putting energy into it. So I'm going to say, before I get into techniques, I want to just say a few things about it, meaning that you have the ability here in the Alliance to sell and recruit and build. You could do one, you could do the other, or you could do both. So what I always say, listen, I'm not telling you to stop selling. Keep selling. For heaven's sakes, you should always sell. What I'm saying is it's not an either or, it's an and. My recommendation is you sell and you recruit and build a team. And, one of the things I remember early within my first maybe 6 months of being here, I was getting to talk to a lot of leaders, just picking their brains, really getting to know them, to be blunt with you, but, talking about business at all times. And I remember one of my conversations with Adam Katz, he put it in such a great way that if you were to look at your full-time job is selling insurance, but then you decided to take a part-time job, and your part-time job is you're going to recruit and build part-time. So it doesn't do anything. So if I've got a full-time job working at AT&T and I get a part-time job at night waiting tables, my part-time job doesn't take anything at all away from my daytime job. So keep your daytime job. That's what's so great about this, is you can keep selling insurance. It won't affect your income one iota, but on top of what you're already doing, if you add to it. So it's not like all of a sudden you should change anything. Some people do that. They're like, okay, I'm going to build a team now, so I need to be different. Not really. Keep doing what you're doing that works. So this is one of my main things, just a business technique in general for anyone who's an entrepreneur. But there's 3 things that I look at every 90 days in my business all the time. I'm like, number 1, what do I need to start doing that I'm not doing now? Number 2, what do I need to stop doing that I am doing now? So can we all agree there's certain things that we do? There's certain things that we're not doing now that we can add, which is what I'm talking about, that would make us more money. And can we also agree there may be a few things we're doing right now that are not productive? So about once every 90 days, I say, what can I start doing that I'm not doing now? What can I stop doing that I am doing now? However, let me throw the third one in because it's vital. What am I doing now that I need to keep doing? So for the example we're doing here, I would say, okay, what do I need to keep doing? I need to keep doing my selling routine like I've always done. I'm not going to change that. But what can I add to it? What do I need to do that I'm not doing now? Put some energy into recruiting and building. Now, it's as simple as that. And it's your part time job. So if it doesn't go as well as you want it to right away, it's not a big deal, because the nature of a part time job is to give you extra above and beyond what you're currently taking in. So, however, you need to frame it in your head, whatever is going to get you into action. Because here's the deal, selling is awesome. A lot of you guys have become professional salespeople. I remember when I knew that I knew how to sell and I knew that I could make a living, I could pay my bills, I could live my life by going and selling on a regular basis. That's a big breakthrough, because a lot of people are afraid to even try it. Most people feel like if they don't have a salary, that they don't have the confidence or the courage or whatever, the conviction to go out and work on commission. So I know how you feel, because I felt the same way. Before I did network marketing, I did 7 years of direct knocking on doors, direct sales, knocking on doors for 7 years. And I remember when I got the system down, when I learned how to prospect, when I learned how to work leads, and when I, of course, learned how to close the sale and be in a house, it's a great feeling. So keep that feeling. But if you can add building a team to it, that's what's going to give you two things: real longevity, being here 20, 30, 40 years from now. I think if all you're doing is selling, and it's all you do, and it can be hard, the routine of selling, you don't want to get to a point where 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, you're burned out. Just imagine if between now and say 15 years from now, for whatever reason, 15 years from now, you just go, man, I just don't want to call another lead. I just don't want to sell anymore, or I don't want to sell that much anymore. Well, if you got no team, if you're going to maintain the same lifestyle, you're not going to have any choice. However, if now you're looking 15 years down the road, you're beginning with the end in mind, one of the 7 habits of highly effective people, and you say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Well, then guess what? It doesn't matter if you have wild success this week or this month, because you're just building this team so that 10 or 15 years from now, if and when you get to the point where you don't want to sell, you've got this beautiful insurance policy. It's called the team. Now, that may be the way you look at it. The other way you look at it is, man, I want to be a partner with integrity. And I know no matter how much I sell personally, integrity is not going to buy my business if it's all my own personal sales. So I need to go do it. Maybe you just want to build a big team and make a lot of money. Whatever your motivation is, we got to get into recruiting. Okay, so the first thing, let's go to real basics. So we need to prospect. That's the first step, prospecting. So that means finding someone. So the second step is inviting. But you can't invite someone if you don't have them. So we have to prospect before we do anything. Now, for me, the simplest way to prospect is to go to my phone and to go to the contacts in my phone. And I have got a tremendous number of contacts in my phone. Don't you have a lot of contacts in your phone? I mean, a lot of them. So here's the deal. You just go to every name in your phone. You can start in EAs, and you just dial every name. Now, I know you're going, well, Mark, you don't understand. Like, if I did that with this guy, he already makes a lot of money. He wouldn't do this. I haven't talked to that person in a long time. That person doesn't like sales. This person tried insurance and failed. So you're going, oh, yeah, this one would be good. Oh, yeah. I'll call them. I don't remember who they are. It's like, look, just call everybody. Say, hey, man, and then you have an invitation. That's the second step. So whatever your invitation is, I got a business thing I need to talk about. I got something I'm really excited about where we can make some money together. When do you have a few minutes? Again, to me, I really don't care what your invitation is. I would keep it short, sweet, and to the point. I wouldn't get into an elaborate deal. Well, let me pause and do this. We have prospecting, inviting, presenting, closing. These things go in sequential order, obviously. So the first thing is prospecting, inviting, presenting, closing, training. So when someone gets involved, these are the steps that we take them through. And the last one is promoting. So again, I'll do them one more time. Prospecting, inviting, presenting, closing, training, promoting. Let me just quickly explain what that means. So prospecting, I got to get them on the list. They have to be a prospect. I can't like invite someone who's not a prospect. So we got to get our prospects. Sometimes we make a list. Sometimes you go online. Sometimes you run ads. You meet someone at the movie theater. So I'm always prospecting. I'm looking for someone. I can go to the next thing, which is inviting someone to come to a presentation. By the way, if you're inviting someone and they say, well, what is it? And you start telling them what it is, you've gone from inviting to presenting. Nope. Someone says, what is? You say, that's why we need to get together tomorrow at about 3 o'clock so I can give you all the details. Well, if you don't tell me anything else, I'm not going to meet you tomorrow. Okay, no big deal. Have a good day. Always nice. And again, you're going to give me an ultimatum like that. Adios. Forget about it. That person is going to be a pain in your butt anyway. So again, you prospect, you invite, then you present. If they say yes, then you close. You get them to say yes. Then you train them. That means on-the-job training, getting them off to a fast start, and then promoting is so critical. And the main thing we're promoting are the events. And I'm just telling you right now, guys, some of you, you're watching this, and you have people on your team, and you're not promoting the event to them. And I honestly don't know what to tell you. Your people are going to be easier to work with, number one. Number two, they're going to be more productive. And number three, they will last longer. We know all of these things to be traditionally true. Over many years, those things happen. So let me say them again. They write more business, they make more money, which makes you more money. They stick around longer, and they're easier to work with. Listen, some of you have raised kids. If you haven't raised kids, certainly you've observed this phenomenon that as kids grow and they become teenagers, they stop listening to their parents. Some stop doing it long before they become a teenager. Guess what your team is going to do? In the beginning, they listen. After a while, they don't listen. You know who they do listen to? This is hilarious. Their friends' parents. Because they say, well, my friend's dad has a Mercedes, so I'll listen to him. It's the same basic psychological phenomenon. So while they may not be listening to you, bring them to the event. They'll listen to Fitz, bring them to the event. They'll listen to Andy Riddle, bring them to the event. They'll listen to Diane Lampy, bring them to the event. They'll listen to Alex Abian. They'll listen to Andy Albright, bring them to the event, and let the top people in the entire company. So we go through all 6 of those steps, man. If you only do 5 of those steps and you're not promoting the event, this could be the number one reason why your group isn't growing. If it's not growing, I can't imagine if I'm working the Alliance right now, there is nobody that I would spend 1 minute working with who didn't go to an event. And I'm not kidding you. When I say that, I mean that from the bottom of my heart, me personally, because it's going to be so hard for me to work with that person if they haven't gotten this information. Or conversely, someone who's gone to the event is going to be so much easier for me to work with. Remember, that's one of the 3 things I already told you. They're so much easier to work with. So that's just one of my non-negotiables. You know what I mean? Now, again, you may choose, you're an independent contractor. You may very well choose not to run your business like that. I just know this. We do 4 events a year. We give them plenty of opportunity. The perfect space of events every 90 days, because I'm telling you, your people need an event after 90 days. There's not too many things I'm really good at in life. Here's what I'm good at: recruiting and building teams using events. And the frequency of the events has everything to do with everything. So every 90 days is absolutely perfect. Get someone into a rhythm going to events every 90 days. But if you have someone they haven't been, I am telling you, you need to promote. All right, let's go back to where we were. So we're prospecting. We're making our list. We're getting people to talk to. So you can't be a psychic friend. You can't say, Bob will, Mary won't. Guys, come on. Listen, my mentor told me there's a really simple rule. The ones you think will, won't. The ones you think can, can't. I don't know why. The ones you think can't can, the ones you think can can't, the ones you think will won't, the ones you think won't will. So God's got a sense of humor. I don't know the explanation for it, but there are definitely people that are on your list right now that you should be inviting. And let me talk to this one specifically for a minute. I did this in Dallas the other day, and I think people really got a lot out of it. So typically, when we make our list, and a lot of times you don't go through your phone, you write names down on a list. Okay, so as you're writing names down on a list, and you go, okay, yeah, Bob Wood, this is good for George. And a lot of times, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, success-wise, you see yourself as a 6, and maybe you see yourself as a 10. I'm just normal, average. I'm talking about the average person. So right now, you see yourself as a 6. You're doing okay, but you look at other people, that financially they're an 8, a 9, a 10. Maybe one of them's a doctor, a successful attorney, maybe someone owns businesses. So you look at them more successful. You look at other people as equal. So if you're a 6, they're a 6. And then you look at a lot of other people as 5s, 4s, 3s, 2s, and 1s. They're not as successful. So what normally happens, if you just don't give anyone any guiding or any coaching, they're going to invite people. They're going to make their list with people that are the same as them or lower than them. That's what they're going to do. That's just natural human behavior. If someone invites the 8s, 9s, and 10s, that is not normal behavior. That's actually called recruiting up. So whatever you see yourself as, when you talk to people that are lower than you, that's called recruiting down. And when you talk to people that are more successful, that's called recruiting up. Now, let me ask you a question. Who do you think has more influence with their contacts? The 2s, 3s, and 4s, or the 9s and 10s? A long time ago, we all know this. It's not what you know, it's who you know, right? We've all heard that one. Yeah. You know what's more valid? It's who knows you. You know what? 9s and 10s, everyone they know knows them as well. A lot of 1s and 2s know people, but the people that they know don't really know them, or shall I say, they don't really respect them. So when someone has a lot of influence with their contacts, that's someone who can go and get a lot of customers really fast. They can also build a team really fast. So the 9s and 10s are the ones we really want, but a lot of us are either intimidated by them or we assume they're already doing great doing what they're doing. Now, here's what's crazy. Are you paying attention, like I am, to what's going on in our country with inflation? Is it just me? I bought natural deodorant. I bought Tom's natural deodorant yesterday. And normally I don't pay a lot of attention to what stuff costs. I'm very fortunate financially that I don't have to pay really close attention and budget. But when that thing rang up for $11 for deodorant, I'm like, there's been certain things that went up, especially at the grocery store. It is crazy how eggs have gone up. This has gone up. That has gone up. The price, what hasn't gone up? I mean, everything has gone up. So I'll tell you another one. The price of buying a house in Dallas. I live in Dallas. So I own the house I'm in. It's a nice house. So the good news is the price of this house is double. The bad news is, for anyone who doesn't have a house, it's from COVID, since COVID, the price of buying a house in Dallas, Texas has doubled. So if it used to be 500,000, it's $1 million now. If it used to be $1 million, it's $2 million, and so on and so forth. So how is the average person affording this? Now, here's the other thing you understand. I think it's really important. I hope you're really listening closely. So when I used to make $20,000 a year, I thought people who made $50,000 a year were rich. And then I made $50,000 a year, and I was like, oh, you know what? I was living paycheck to paycheck. I'm still living paycheck to paycheck, but certainly the people who make $100,000 a year, those people are rich. Then I made $100,000 a year, and I was still living paycheck to paycheck. Now I had a cool car. I lived in a nicer place, but certainly the people that are making $250,000, those people are dialed in. Then I made $250,000. Bought this home, bought some much nicer cars. Got this, got that, joined the country club, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? still living paycheck to paycheck. It's pitiful, and I'm not bragging. I've learned since then how to live on ratios and spend. There's two skills. There's making money and spending money. We don't have time to get into it right now. But I was not. Here's the thing. The average American is like I used to be. I think the average of 50% of American households have $0 in savings, some scary, ridiculous number like that. So here's what I'm trying to get across to you right now. The people that you're looking at, the 9s and 10s, this may be mind-boggling for you, but a lot of the 9s and 10s that you know are living paycheck to paycheck, or because inflation is so outrageous right now, they're actually in trouble financially. Now, where is someone who's got a high-end white-collar job? What are they going to do? Go wait tables at TGI Fridays? There's not a lot of options, but a lot of people need a secondary or maybe even a third income in their household now because the cost of living is going through the roof. So there are more recruitable people in general now than any time that I can remember in my lifetime. But in particular, right now, there's more 9s and 10s. So this is the time for you to recruit up. You want to start aggressively recruiting up, talking to everyone. So when you make your list, the point is, again, I said all that to go back to the first thing I said. Make a list with everybody on it. Contact as many people as you humanly possibly can. And here's the thing. It's very simple. It's very basic. I know some of you heard it, but again, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. I hate it when people say knowledge is power. I think knowing something can actually be almost dangerous or damaging. Because if you know something and you're not doing it, but you're walking around with an arrogance like I already know that, well, if you know it, it's even worse if you're not doing it. It's one thing if you don't know it and you're not doing it, but if you're not contacting everyone, then you really need to listen to what I'm saying right now because it's vital. Because here's the thing, some will, some won't, so what? You've heard that, right? If you've been recruiting at all, you know that. Some will, some won't. So what? Call the next one on the list, 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 next one on the list. A lot of you guys call leads. It's the same concept. Some will, some won't. So what? If someone says no, does that mean all the rest of the leads don't work? Does that mean no one's ever going to buy from you? It simply means you go to the next person on the list. We cannot get emotionally attached. I don't know for whatever reason, but when it comes to recruiting, we get emotionally attached to someone before we even call them. In our mind, we're like, oh my gosh, they're going to be the next Andy Riddle. I got to get this one. Well, you know what? Potential, you can write this down if you want to, is a fancy French word, which means someone hasn't done anything yet. So getting all excited about someone before they even sign up, before they even come to a presentation is the silliest thing I've ever seen in my life. So you've got to invite them and they have to see it. If for whatever reason they don't want to do it, it's cool. And again, this is one of the things you got to understand. If you invite someone and they don't want to do the alliance, they don't want to sell insurance, they don't like what we're doing, it's okay. It's like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? You've heard that before. So some of you like the kind of music I like. I like rock and roll. I'm a Beatles fan. I'm an Eagles fan. Bruce Springsteen. You know, U2. I love rock and roll. Now I know a lot of you are going, ugh, rock and roll. Oh, this old guy is driving me crazy because you like hip hop music. And I get it. That's what your generation. Some people like techno music. Some people some people love country and western. So here's the bottom line. If you years ago doing these big trainings all over the world, I've always had a phenomenal crew that I work with. So one of the guys who was our camera director. So like if you're going to a show, what you see on the screen, if you have a 5-camera shoot, he's the one who's telling each camera what to put up there. Well, they certainly do that at live concerts, right? So one of the guys, when he wasn't with me, he would work on the road with some of the biggest artists in the world. So he was doing some events with me. He goes, man, I'm going to have to not work the rest of the year. I just got a call from Jay-Z and, you know, he wants me to direct his show, you know, so I'm going to be on the road with Jay-Z. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. His name was Gary, really nice guy. I'm like, no worries, Gary. So Gary's like, dude, I feel bad about this because I told you I'd be with you all season. So let me do this. Just come on down. I'll get you 2 tickets, front row for you pick whatever show you want. Anywhere in the world, we're doing a show, and I'll get you 2 front row tickets. And he was being so nice. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Jay-Z, but no bueno. I don't want to go. You couldn't give me front row. He literally couldn't give me front row seats. Now, I know for a lot of you, I couldn't give you a front row seat to see Bruce Springsteen. So does that mean, first of all, that Jay-Z doesn't work and he should retire, that Springsteen should work and they should retire? Does it mean the entire music industry is a scam? Does it mean anything other than the fact that I invited you to a concert that you don't like that music? So when someone looks at what we're doing, they don't like it. Stop second guessing yourself. Stop going, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. What do you mean you don't know what you're doing? We showed them the information. They didn't like it. Okay, great. You showed them the record. You played the song for them. They didn't like it. It's not a big deal. You've got to get to a point where you are not taking the rejection personally. And by the way, if they're rejecting anyone, they're rejecting Andy and Jane Albright. If they're rejecting anyone, they're rejecting Bryan Adams. They're not rejecting you. You didn't put this whole thing together. They're rejecting Mutual of Omaha or whoever the other carriers are that we're bringing to the public. So the bottom line is you just show it to them. Some will, some won't. So what? The thing is showing it to everyone. I don't know how to get this across to you. Some of the people that could be in our top 5 salespeople nationwide, they could be in the top business builders. Some of them can actually be a partner with integrity at some point. By the way, just think about it. Most of the people that become partners with integrity, don't you think they were 9s and 10s before they got involved? So the deal is those people, if we recruit up, they're out there, they're available. They might even start doing this part-time, but eventually become a partner. But they're either not going to do it or they'll do it, but not in your organization if you're not the one who invites them. So we got to go to inviting everyone, prospecting, putting everybody listening, calling everyone. Zig Ziglar, I know most of you know who Zig Ziglar is, one of the greatest sales trainers in the history of mankind, one of the greatest motivational speakers in the history of mankind. Success is going from one no to another no with no loss of enthusiasm, going from one failure to another failure with no loss of enthusiasm. So that's the main thing that we want to do, man. We want to just call everyone. 3 rules I learned a long time ago. Pay attention, get excited, never quit. Okay, I could talk about these for a long time, but for now, I'm just going to focus on get excited. Get excited. So when you're calling someone, are you excited? Real. Like, what if I did, you know what? How about this? I'll do the rest of the Zoom the way some of you do your calls when you invite people. Hey, Bob, you've got to see what I'm doing, man. I've got this money-making opportunity that's going to blow your mind. I'll do the rest of Zoom like that. Yeah, so the next thing I want to talk about are the 3 rules. Pay attention, get excited, never quit. I just want to tell you, these are all really important. It's not what we say, it's how we say it. You know what's better than being intelligence on ice? Being ignorance on fire. Okay, you need to get excited. And here's what I always tell people. If we are not excited about what we're doing, how on earth is anyone else going to be excited about what we're doing if we're not excited about what we're doing? So we need to be excited. We need to be able to express it to people. And by the way, it starts with the invitation. Certainly, when you're doing a live presentation or a Zoom presentation, you want to also be excited. Certainly when you're closing your prospect, certainly when you're training them, certainly when you're promoting, you want to be enthusiastic all the time. But the invitation is really important because let me tell you something. If you don't invite someone, they don't show up, you could do the greatest presentation. You could have Tony Robbins do the presentation for you. If you can get him to do that, you probably can't. But if you could, you could have the world's greatest presenter do the presentation for you. But if your person doesn't show up because you can't invite, then what's the point? So we've got to be enthusiastic while we're inviting people. We make the list and we invite as many people as we can, and we start recruiting up. That's a very, very important concept. Now, again, when we get people signed up, let me do this for you. This is the other thing. and this is a lot of basics. Andy just asked me to do really basic stuff. So at the end of a presentation, I mentioned to you that we prospect, then we invite, we present, then we close. Okay, now closing here is it's difficult to use the term closing because we kind of are closing, but not like if you're selling. So when I learned how to sell door to door, cookware, china, crystal, door to door, they told me the average customer, the average buyer, will say no 7 times before they say yes. So that means I may ask a closing question. You should ask a closing question. So at the end of a presentation, so are you ready to get started? You ask a closing question of some kind. You do something. However, if I'm trying to close a sale and I ask you a closing, say, so are you ready to get started today? And they go, well, I don't really think so. I really don't have the money. A salesperson, no matter what their first objection is, you hear it and go, okay, and we learn how to overcome objections. I'm not going to get into that right now, but you agree with them. I understand how you feel. However, have you looked at like this and you give them another argument, so to speak, and then you reclose them? And then they go, yeah, that's true. I got where you come from, but they give you another reason. You go, okay, I understand that, but, and then we do another and we reclose. So they're saying you need to close 7 times before someone finally says yes. So selling is relentless, relentless. You're like the waves of the ocean. You're coming at them, you're wearing them down until they say yes. Recruiting is the exact opposite. The only perfect analogy for me is asking someone on a date. So when you ask someone on a date, you're going to put your best foot forward. You want to present yourself the best way you possibly can. So, hey, so would you like to go out on Thursday? And if they don't give you an enthusiastic yes, they go, well, I don't really know. Like, can you turn around? Can I see what you look like? Yeah. Well, give me, flex for me to go to the gym. Can I look at your bank book? If someone's saying those things, and that would be crazy if they said those things, but if they were, wouldn't there be an alarm going off in your head going, whoa, I don't want to go out with this person? So when I'm done with a presentation, either someone's in or they're out. Either you get it or you don't. Dr. Phil, right? We've all heard of Dr. Phil, certainly know who he is. He actually wrote a book, and long before he had a TV show, I think it was called Life Matters. I'm pretty sure. All I know is the first chapter of the book was titled, Either You Get It or You Don't. Wow, that was such a powerful teaching for me. Either you get it or you don't. That's the best thing I can teach you when it comes to recruiting. Presentation's over. I show it to them, then I say, so is this something you want to do? Are you ready to get started? Whatever comes out of your mouth, you ask a closing question, and either you get a positive, yes, I'm ready to go, or maybe they say, I've got a couple of questions, which is also wonderful. You answer the questions. But if they're like, I'm not really sure, I don't know if it's for me, I'm like, okay, listen, no big deal. I appreciate that. I understand where you're coming from. I'm not putting virtually any energy, because if I've got to close you, if I have to close you to get you in, you're not going to do anything. The bottom line is we want them to work hard. We want them to go and talk to people they know. We want them to get engaged and do things. There's no point in having someone on your team if they don't want to be on your team. Now, what's the opposite of this? The opposite of this is you take the ninja closing skills you have from selling insurance. You know how to overcome every objection known to mankind. You have this relentless, I'm going to close whoever it is, no matter what it takes mindset, which is awesome. So at the end of the presentation, a recruiting presentation, you overcome all these objections, use every ninja move you have, every black belt, and you sign up someone who didn't want to sign up, and you somehow think that's a good thing. See, that's why some of you may not love building the business. If you're selling someone on getting in, if you're closing them against their will, well, no wonder they're not doing anything. So again, the simple expression we use is we're not selling, we're sorting. When it comes to selling insurance, selling annuities, you're selling, you're selling, you're selling, you're selling. When it comes to our business opportunity, you're not selling, you're sorting. You lay it out, If they want to do it, great. If they don't want to do it, great. Some will, some won't. So what? The key here, guys, is to show the opportunity as often as you humanly possibly can. The only people I know that they start recruiting and then they stop, are the people that have very small lists. They've only tried to invite a couple of people, or they've invited a few people. They're doing small numbers. If you're inviting people all the time, in the current financial climate we're in, which I just got done explaining to you, there is no way you're not going to build a team to some degree. So you invite them, you present to them. At the end, you use the phrase closing, but what we're really doing is we're sorting. We're not selling, we're sorting. Now, if someone says they want to do it, great. Now is when you need to hold them by the hand and start telling them what to do. Most people have always had a job. They've had a job their whole life. So when you get a job, you get a job description. You're told by your supervisor, by your boss, what you're supposed to do. And they sit there and they watch you and they manage you. And if you show up late, they write you up. If you're not doing what you're supposed to, you have someone who's supervising everything you're doing. When you become an independent business owner, when you become an agent, you know what I mean? You're independent. So some people get licensed in 24 to 48 hours, other people don't get licensed ever, or it takes them 4 months to get licensed. You know what I mean? You can get licensed as fast as you want to get licensed, and certainly within a week you can get licensed if you're putting your energy into. But again, remember that new person is looking to you for guidance. Very much like a child looks to their parents for guidance. Very much like a kid looks at her teacher for guidance. Very much like a player looks to their coach for guidance. So you need to make it very simple and show them how to get licensed. If you want them to go through a class so they learn everything, great. But you need to be walking them through the steps, getting them moving in the direction. You also need to let them know, we can start making your list. We can start contacting people before you even get your license. You're able to do that. Now, their commissions won't go in their bank account until they are licensed, but just let them know it's just a matter of time until you're licensed. You can take the test as often as you need to. So if you're not great at taking a test, take it 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Take away that objection. The bottom line is, here's what we want to do. We want to get them into action as quickly as we possibly can. So here's one major thing. And again, I know when I first got started here, this was an emphasis and I loved it. And then somehow, some way, you know how that is. Our day-to-day operations, sometimes we just get a little lax with things. But if you have not gotten Andy's books, the 8 rules, you've got to get that book and you have got to follow those. I'm just telling you, when you're starting a new person, I don't understand how you can't have them follow what's in that book. So here's what I would do personally. If I'm wanting to recruit, I'm going to go buy 10 of those books. And as soon as a person says, yes, I'm going to do this, and they start taking action, I just gift them the book. I mean, you can buy them. They're not that expensive, and you can write it off on your taxes. But if you're serious about recruiting a whole bunch of people, I'd actually have 10, 20, 30 of those books. And I will want that to duplicate throughout my entire group, that we're all just following these steps, man, these 8 steps to being successful. So one of them is you become a product yourself. You become a user of the products yourself. All 8 steps are very simple. They're very basic. But what's crazy is they're easy to do, but they're also easy not to do. It talks about reading every day. You know what I mean? Reading something, growing, learning every day. It talks about attending all the events. I'm not going to go into all 8 steps right now. All I'm saying is that is really what you want to do to get your person started. And it's also what you want to do to make sure they're staying on the path. And here's the coolest thing about this. If you have someone on your team and they're not doing what they should do, instead of you getting into an argument, or instead of them seeing you as their boss who's telling him what to do, you could just say, man, this, you're not following steps right now. Go to this chapter and remember this step. So now Andy's actually helping you manage your group without him even physically being there. So I think what you're going to see in general is pretty much every leader in the group is going to go to this. Where we're going to start using that book is like a fundamental everyone. I'm just telling you guys, if we want to grow really big momentum, those 8 steps are as sound as they can humanly possibly be. I believe a lot of where Andy learned those was back when he was in network marketing many, many years ago. And those sound fundamental principles have been around for decades and decades and decades. And by applying them properly to the insurance industry, there's just no reason why you shouldn't be able to have success. So again, you're following those steps. Very important. And you're in action. Here's the other thing with the recruiting part. It's like, again, there's so much. I mean, we could do 20 weeks in a row on doing this. I'm just trying to put as much fundamental business building in here as I humanly possibly can. So part of it is recruiting. It's recruiting and building, right? When Andy talks about it, he talks about recruiting and building. Any of our leaders, Leventovich, any of our leaders, they talk about recruiting and building because they really are separate skills. So one of the main things is, okay, I've got some people on my team now. Who do I spend my time with? Who do I work with? That's a really, really big one. So that goes back to another one of the core teachings I learned from my mentor. So we don't listen to what people say. We watch what they do. If you've heard that, great. If it had, let it just sink in for a second. We don't listen to what people say. We watch what they do. A lot of people talk a great game, but their actions don't match up to what they're saying. So we don't listen to what they say. We watch what they do. Here's the other expression, and this one is hard. I remember the first time I heard this, I had a hard time with it. I know a lot of people do, but we work where we're deserved, not where we're needed. And I know a lot of people, you have big hearts and you're like, but I've got to work with people who need me. Listen, everybody needs you. There's no one who's getting started who doesn't need you. They all need you, but some of them don't realize they need you. They need to deserve your time. So again, let me go back to what I just got done saying. Everyone's an independent contractor. So they're not a salaried employee. We don't tell them you must do this at this time, so they can do whatever they want to do. So the best thing about being self-employed, there's a million things. If you're an agent, you're self-employed. But the best thing about being self-employed out of all the things is you can do whatever you want whenever you want. The worst thing about being self-employed is you can do whatever you want whenever you want. So again, it goes to a discipline. Is so important. And I know people hate that word. Oh, discipline. I'm an agent because I want to be. Okay, so the hours are flexible, but they're not optional. So you need to work the hours. You need to do the calls. So you need to develop discipline. And somehow people believe if they're independent contractors, if they're agents, all of a sudden they're free agents, so they don't have to be disciplined. I don't know anyone in any walk of life that's had consistent success over a long period of time without being disciplined. It's very, very critically important that you have discipline in what you're doing. So again, our business is no different. So I'm watching. I'm not listening. I'm watching people, and I'm watching them to see who deserves my time. Now, sometimes people confuse, so let me be clear with this. Work where you deserve, not where you're needed. The people who deserve your time are not necessarily the ones who are selling the most or even the ones who are recruiting the most. It's the ones that are doing everything you're asking them to do. They're putting in a maximum effort. So they will be at family reunion. They're on TWC every single week. And if they miss one, they go and watch it. And by the way, you know when your people are watching these and when they're not. First of all, if they're watching, you're going to talk about them. Secondly, you're going to see it show up in their business. So again, they're doing the weekly calls. They're going to the events. When there's a hot spot, they're showing up at it. Whatever, they're being teachable. So let me go to this, guys, because again, it's working with the right people. I just gave you a couple of good things, but this is the ultimate. People all the time, and I know Andy did a great job about a year ago, not quite a year ago, talking about like what's our avatar, like what's the ideal person, what's their age, what's their background, and start like looking for like really high end prospects, and that's great. Definitely 100%. Let me give you a different filter to look at everyone through. So if you're putting people, however you're getting them in, once they get in, I'm treating everybody the same. Whether they fit that perfect avatar that Andy's looking like, or maybe let's just say I meet a guy and he's I don't know, he's washing my car. He's one of the guys working in a car wash, but he has an amazing attitude. And every time I see him, he's got an amazing attitude, but he has a very low level, non-high paying job. But I just say to him, man, dude, every time I come down here, you have like the greatest attitude. Let me ask you a question. You keep your career options open. And let's just say that guy decides to get involved in our business part-time. What I'm saying is that guy and the very high-end perfect avatar prospect, I'm putting him through the same thing. I'm looking for the same things. So what am I looking for in a perfect prospect? Number one, by a mile, I want someone who's teachable. Someone who's teachable. Listen, all the talent in the world and not being teachable. Listen, and I don't care if I'm a football coach, if I'm Nick Saban, if I'm Kirby Smart, if I'm whatever great football coach, I bring in a kid who's got a ton of raw talent, but they don't want to learn. They're not going to be good. There's so much to learn. Wouldn't they say it's what you learn after you think you know everything is what makes all the difference in the world. So you've got to be teachable. That's the first thing I'm looking for. So right now, this has got to be speaking to someone. You got someone on your team, amazing talent. Maybe they have a lot of contacts. Maybe they have a ton of followers on social media, but they're not being teachable. It's a waste of your time. So someone's either, it's binary. It's either teachable or they're unteachable. They either do what you tell them to do or they don't. So for me, the first thing I'm looking for overrides everything else is, are they teachable? Number two, close second, but definitely number two, is do they have a strong desire to be successful? Let me tell you something. I would have loved to have met Andy Albright when he first got involved in network marketing many, many years ago, and then first got in insurance. This guy has one of the strongest desires to succeed of anyone I've ever met. I mean, again, no matter what shortcomings Andy might have had, his burning desire, it says this, by the way, in Think and Grow Rich, the formula for success in the first chapter, you have a white hot, burning desire to become successful. You look at Kobe Bryant. Most NBA athletes work out one day a week. The ones that want to be elite and phenomenal, they are great, I should say. They work out twice a day. Kobe worked out 4 times a day. Jordan worked out like these guys. Tiger Woods, go and Google Tiger Woods when he was in the prime of his career. What was his average day like? And again, he got up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, ate a healthy breakfast, worked out. Then he went and ran 5 miles. Then he played golf. Then he had a healthy lunch. I mean, he was obsessed. Everything was about what he was doing to become great at what he was putting his heart and soul into. So again, the people that have this unusual desire, that's the second thing I'm looking for. Now, it's hard enough to find someone who's teachable, let alone find someone who's teachable and has a burning desire. But these are the people you're looking for. These are the things you're looking for. The third thing for me, and I really limit it to these 3 things. I'll throw in a 4th bonus thing, but the third thing, the trifecta, is someone who's tough. Someone who, so in other words, something bad happens to him. Some people, the minute something bad happens to them, like, oh my God, I had a cancellation. I didn't know the people would cancel. And they're gone. Like, it totally takes them apart. So I'm looking for someone. What is in the Rocky movie? I know there's been 47 Rocky movies, but I don't know if it was the most recent one, but the one where Rocky's not fighting anymore and he has an adult son and his adult son is whining to him about whatever. And Rocky gives one of the greatest speeches ever been in the movie. And he talks about life's going to hit you, and it doesn't matter how hard you hit. It matters how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. So that's what I'm looking for, man. I'm looking for someone who's teachable, someone who has a burning desire. And when things go rough, someone gets, what was that Nike commercial back in the day? Knocked down 8 times, got back up 9 times. You're going to get knocked down. Life is going to, think Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Kiyosaki says, life's going to push you around. Are you going to push back or not? So those are the 3 things I'm looking for. Those are the 3 things you should be looking for, the people you're working with. And then the 4th bonus thing, because I know some of you are going, wait a minute, what about the 4th bonus thing? The 4th bonus thing, if someone has influence with their contacts. So if I'm going to draw up a perfect prospect, it's someone who's very teachable, has a burning desire to be successful, someone who is tough as nails, and someone who has a lot of influence with their contacts. That's why we go back to recruiting up, because people who are already successful have a lot of influence with their contacts. Now, that 4th one is almost like asking, I wouldn't say asking for too much. You can never ask for too much. But most of the people I've taught and trained to be successful over the years, they didn't always have that 4th thing. That's like a luxury on top of everything else. But they always had those 3 things. Everyone I've taught who's become an ace, who became an elite producer, one of the best, they had those things. So those are the things you should start looking for. And again, remember, we're not selling, we're sorting. So in the beginning, we sort them. Do they get in or not? I show you the presentation. Some will, some won't. So what? So the main sort that everyone talks about when we say we're sorting, not selling, is do they sign up or not? They see a presentation. Do they get in or not? I'm not going to sell them. I'm not going to overcome their objections. I'm just going to do it. You make a decision. Okay, I'm not going to say those words. Don't be that blunt. But it's like all I'm doing is I'm sorting. Do they get in or not? Now, a lot of people don't understand. Now we got to go to the second sort. The second sort is, do they do something? A lot of people sign up and do nothing at all. They never get licensed. They never come to a meeting. They never get on a weekly call. They never get their own policy. They don't follow any of the steps at all, right? So do they do anything? That's the second sort. A lot of you, and this goes back to what I just said, working with the right people, a lot of you are trying to motivate people who've done nothing. The expression is learned years ago. It's easier to give birth. It's not easy to give birth. I understand it's not easy to give birth, but it's easier to give birth than to resurrect the dead. A lot of you guys are trying to resurrect the dead. You're trying to take people who have no interest in doing this. They might have come down, they were excited at the opportunity presentation, but maybe they went home and got run over by a freight train of a significant other or mother-in-law, or somebody goes, oh my gosh, you're not going to do insurance. Are you out of your mind? So if they're not into it anymore, they're not into it anymore. The second sort is, do they engage? Do they get started? The third sort is, do they produce anything? So now we're going to the work where you deserve, not where you're needed. That's the third sort. So now they're not only like doing something. Some people are doing nothing. So the first sort is, do they get in? The second sort is, do they do something? The third sort is, do they deserve my time? But then there's a 4th sort, and a 5th sort, and a 6th sort. Every time family reunions coming up, that's a sort for me. Because again, everyone's got free will. So either they go or they don't go. And believe me when I tell you, you've already gotten this from me, but I'll say it again. The people who go to an event, the people who don't go to an event, I'm never going to be mean to anyone on my team. I'm not going to be nasty. I'm not going to yell at them. But if I've got Bob who comes up with a reason or excuse why he's not going to the event, and I've got Mary, and Mary does go to the, I'm just telling you point blank, all other things being equal, I'm spending my time with Mary and not Bob. Because Mary is easier to work with. It's just that simple. She's going to be easier to work with because she just came out of this event. And Bob, although he may be good, and I'm not saying I'm never going to talk to him, I'm not saying I'm never going to work with him. What I'm saying is Mary's getting more time than Bob because he went to an event. It's a sort. If people are getting on the weekly calls, it's a sort. If people have read Andy's book and they know the rules, That's a sort. Either they do or they don't. So again, guys, I'm starting to wind this down, but the point is, recruiting is what's going to give you the big income in our business. I know you can be an absolute super duper star like Megan Wood and make an astronomical amount of money selling. I know now Belle Krause is in that, right? She is going crazy selling. And we have other people. I don't want to leave people's names out. We have some superstar salespeople here, and that's awesome. But for a lot of people, they're just never going to sell that much. But wouldn't it be cool to earn as much as the people who are that good at selling because you found some other good people on your team? This is the other reason why we recruit. You're legally allowed to recruit what you're not. So if you're a guy, you can recruit a girl. If you're older, you can recruit young people. For me, if you're young, you recruit older people. If you are not that good of a salesperson, you can recruit people who are good salespeople. If you're not a good recruiter, you can recruit them. If you're not outgoing, you can recruit them. If you don't have a burning desire to become successful, you can recruit them. If you're not tough, you can recruit them. So again, everything points to going out and showing this business to as many people as possible. And I'm telling you, I'm reiterating, now is a ripe season for recruiting. I really, really believe that some of the most phenomenal agents we've ever had are going to be developed in the next 24 months because I believe what's going on in the economy, there's going to be a lot of people who would have never, a lot of 8s, 9s, and 10s who would have never gotten involved in this kind of a business, who are going to get involved in business because circumstances. And then once they find out how amazing this business is, and once they get around Andy and Jane, our other top leaders, then they're going to stick with us forever and ever and ever. So again, guys, we are in a perfect season. I got to go back to saying one more time, if you're not signed up for the event, family reunion, you got to get signed up for it. And I'll be doing more of this, by the way. I'll be doing a few things, but one of the main things I'll be doing is getting back into teaching nuts and bolts about recruiting. And the other speakers have so many phenomenal talks. They're already ready to go. So I'm telling you, it's really going to have an impact. But I'll say this last thing. If you have a team and you're not pushing them to go, I truly think you're doing them a disservice. I really, really, really do. The people who got on your team got there because they wanted something. They had a dream, they had a vision. And in order for them to fulfill that, in order for them to go as far as they possibly can, you've got to get them to these events. They'll be easier to work with, they'll last longer, and they'll produce more. There is just no reason not to go to the event. The problem is, they don't know. When I went to my first event 36 years ago, I had no idea it was going to change the direction of my life. Everyone would go to the event if they knew it was going to change the direction of their life. The problem is they don't understand that. It's another training. Corporate trainings are normally boring and they don't impact you at all. So what we're doing is so different. So it's just very important that your job is to promote the event and let the person know this is not typical. So why don't we do this? Let's get off. I know some of you guys have policy, you have appointments, sits you got to get to. But if you're not going to a sit right now, why don't you get on your phone right now and start recruiting up and calling some people and setting up some appointments. And certainly if you have people on your team who are not registered for family reunion, let's get them registered right now. Let's go out in the next 3 or 4 hours, 5 or 6 hours, and let's take action, because thoughts, you got to have the right mindset. It's absolutely essential. But it only matters because it leads you to the right actions, because ultimately thoughts determine what we want, actions determine what we get. Information is great, but knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. So apply a little bit of what I just shared with you. Let's go recruit some people you weren't going to recruit, and I'll see you guys in Carolina at family reunion. So that's all I've got. Have a blessed day. Thanks for listening to what I had to say, and I look forward to seeing you in Carolina.